Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Lloyd and I source cars for people on a professional basis, hence the name of my channel, Lloyd Vehicle Consulting. 4 years ago, I was asked to come up with a series of videos that were filmed inexpensively. We don't use digital cameras, we don't use fluid head tripods, we don't use shotgun microphones, we wear tatty shirts, we just use a phone. But we look at cars that you can buy for a budget up to £1,000 only, and we very much enjoy ourselves. These are cars that might be in cosmetically bad condition. You might see oil leaks, rattly dashboards and cosmetic imperfections, but we go all over the country and we find these very inexpensive cars that you all seem to enjoy watching. Well, viewers, this is probably one of the nicest conditioned cars we've ever had on No Budget Reviews. Obviously it's a demonstration of cars that you can buy for under £1,000. This one though, it's quite a special example of a Mark III Vauxhall Cavalier. Here we are at the Great British Car Journey in Derbyshire, and this is a one-owner car, registered in 1992. This was supplied by Toomey Motors of Basildon in Essex, and it remained with its original owner until I think the museum actually bought it. It's not an absolute base model, it's an L, and these slightly later pre-facelift Ls actually came with a few things like power steering. This one's even got electric windows in it. There was a base model 1.6, there was even a base model 1.4 with pre-facelift Mark III Cavaliers. So this is sort of abject luxury in comparison with probably some of your memories of these Mark IIIs. I also have driven a Mark III before. It was a very late one, a 1.6 Classic, which is a run-out model in 1995. But yeah, I fancy to go in one of these, and a little bit of no budget reviews, don't we? Also, you can pick these still up for under £1,000. Definitely can. Obviously, it won't be as nice as this. So, all original, not resprayed, and actually this one doesn't really have any rust on it either. The arches are just a bit dirty. Classic places, front arches, rear arches, not a problem on this one. So car colour, this one's kept in storage a lot of the time unless you want to come and drive it here. And if you think this video is terrible, then come and drive it and make your own. So, spare tyre under there, jack, everything's original, screwdriver, nice big boot, two-piece parcel shelf. You get a saloon as well. This is the hatch. There's the ski hatch, which is a sort of nice feature of the Cavaliers, or the Opel Vectra A as they were known in a lot of other places. Not perhaps the most inspiring colour, this kind of flat blue, but it was very typical of this kind of era of just normal everyday family cars. We've got original wheel trims on this as well, which is brilliant. Get in the back. Fortunately, we've got some pot around a puddle, so I'm going to be a bit careful. I don't want to get this car too dirty. Windy windows in the back, of course, only just the L. I mean, we prefer something like a CD or a CDX, wouldn't we, viewers? But I mean, this will do, won't it? Yeah, nice amount of room in here, actually, even with the sunroof, manual sunroof, of course. So we haven't got the sort of normal armrest. We have got the ski hatch, so we have an armrest and the ski hatch. It's fantastic. Obviously, if you have a GSI 2000 4x4, then you want to be living the life of somebody who actually goes and does winter sports, not so much in the 1.6L. Look at this tape storage solutions, viewers. Yeah, not all of them work, but isn't that just fantastic? The only thing is, that's not really in the driver's reach so much. You'd have reached behind you. It'd be better if it was kind of sort of you know, the dash somewhere. But there we go. So yeah, there's recording equipment in there that you are allowed to use if you are in here, and you can make a better video than me. So nice velour, very, very sort of 80s velour, even though this is a 1990s car. Feels very sort of 1980s, this sort of velour. And a little ashtray down here, of course, because, well, that's what you need. It's just sort of come adrift a bit, hasn't it? Never mind. Electric windows there in the middle, of course. It's very common in 1990s cars. High adjustable seat belts. You can see why absolutely tons of people had these as family cars. They are very practical. It's still very practical today if you were looking for maybe like an older daily car. So we'll get in, we'll try to keep our feet away from the puddle. Internally adjustable mirrors. Some people would have been coming to one of these from a car that didn't have internally adjustable mirrors, which is something, isn't it? The interior was sort of revised a bit for the facelift, which came along later in 1992. No rev counter though, only the L spec. This radio, I think, is a bit later in the car, actually. I think it would have been a bit different if it had been an original radio from 92. Shelf up there for stuff, because it has got a glove box. We might get my secret mission documents in there, I don't know. Soft touch dash, which is nice, and it's not a unremitting sea of black either. It's a sort of nice light colour. Someone's replaced the top of the gear lever. You can get replacements now. The Astra convertible that I drove last week actually had one of these too. And there are those indicator and wiper stalks. I went in an absolute ton of different cars, including things like the Lotus Elise. I think they used those. Has light switches. The only thing that's actually kind of broken in here, which is very, very strange. Maybe it's just because it had the sun on it, but this car would have been garaged all of its life. Very, very strange way of selecting the fan speed, just like this. It's not a bad way, it's just very peculiar. When you can sort of position the air any way that you want it. Blanking switches, of course. No front fog lamps or anything in this. No heated seats. It's a really ingenious little way to do an ashtray, isn't it? There's just the cigarette lighter or 12-volt socket. That is where I'd expect to see the tape storage, but no such luck. Very, very, very big door pockets. These earlier Mark III Cavaliers don't have an airbag or side impact protection beams. Those came sort of a bit later. I think we'll leave the sunroof alone, really. We don't want to break that, particularly this car's so original. Yes, it's all just really familiar. Normal handbrake. There are those mirror switches again. 5-speed manual. I think all cars actually came with a 5-speed gearbox. The Mark IIs, some of them had a 4-speed. It's not really a lot to get distracted by. A lot of you will think that this is absolutely amazing, and I think so too. I just would like a Diplomat or something like that. That would be maybe my preference. Right, let's have a look at the engine, shall we? So, good old overhead cam 1.6 litre engine with a very distinctive oil filler cap, in this case generating, I think in this car, about 82 horsepower. The later 1.6s after the facelift, I think, had 75 horsepower, so this one's probably got a little bit more power. It does have a sticker saying unleaded fuel only, so I think this might have a cat on it, so I might be wrong about the power output, but very, very, very easy to work on. There is the oil filter. Power steering on this one. A lot of the earlier ones didn't get that, if on the lower trims. I think actually they got carved. This will have probably fuel injection on it. But if it is fuel injection, it's a very simple system indeed. And there's the fuel filter. So extremely easy to work on. Absolutely wonderful. Made in the United Kingdom. I think these were made at Luton, as well as many other places. Right, I think it's time to go out for a little spin. So it's one of these times where I'm grateful to have power steering in a car, because I gather the early ones of these, like the early base 1.4s and 1.6s without the power steering, were not good. Talking of engines, the 1.4 that was at the base of the range when the car was launched in 1988 produced just 75 horsepower. Later on, that engine was actually dropped, and the 1.6 became the basic power plant after the facelift, and that produced either 70 horsepower in the E-drive form, which I think also had a different gearbox, or 75 brake horsepower in the sort of form that I drove last time. This car I think has 82 horsepower, which is what the early 1.6s had. 1.8s, there weren't actually as many as I thought, considering how many 1.8s that there seemed to be with the Mark III Astras. There was only one and it produced 90 horsepower. But we get into the 2 litres, and there were a lot of 2 litres. There were the 8-valve engines. First one was 115 horsepower. And then there was the famous, I think red top they called it, which was 130 horsepower. When we get into the 16-valve engines, and things get more interesting. The later 2-litre 16-valve produced 136 horsepower. That replaced both of the 8-valve engines. Then we get onto the 150 horsepower engine that was in the GSI 2000, and then the craziest one of all, which was the turbo 4x4 with 204 horsepower, shredding those tyres. Fortunately, it did have a 4x4 system to help a little bit. The one that I would probably recommend, though, at the absolute top of the range, was the 2.5 litre V6, which generated 170 horsepower. That engine was also used in the Vectra B, and I have driven the Vectra B with that engine, and it's pretty good. I'm just going to turn off that fan because it's a little bit annoying. There are also some diesels available, but as usual, due to controversial government legislation and all kinds of other reasons, we don't talk about diesels on this channel. What we do talk about is actually how pleasant this car is to drive. I remember in 2021 coming down this very stretch of road in a Ford Sierra that the museum also has, and the Sierra isn't anywhere near as kind of smooth and easy to drive as this. This is really easy, probably due to the fact that this car, to be honest, is a fair bit newer in its design. It came out in '88 and the Sierra came out in '82, and it has rear-wheel drive. This is front-wheel drive, and it just feels very normal in terms of a lot of modern cars. That's why you could just hop into one of these and you don't necessarily even need to think very much, particularly with the later ones with fuel injection and power steering. The gearbox, like a lot of the General Motors gearboxes of the time, is a little bit on the long throw, and it's a bit sort of notchy, but that's just the way that they were, and it's part of the charm, or part of the you know, frustrating experience, depending on your point of view. But I think it's just fine. With the power steering, it's very easy to thread this car through these cones. Obviously we can't go for a longer drive today because we are confined, as anyone would be, taking one of the test drives here on the estate to just relatively low speeds, and also this particular area. But yeah, you can see why people love these. The company car drivers lapped up the Cavaliers and all their forms and all their, you know, multiple specifications that we'll be speaking about a bit later. And I'm really, really happy to have driven this incredibly lovely example that the owner clearly cared for very, very much for many, many years. Handling actually is okay, despite the fact we're on these steel wheels, and you know, we haven't got a lot of power in this car, but it's fantastic. Lloyd Vehicle Consulting stickers, t-shirts and mugs are available by clicking the link to the Google form in the video description below. Let's look now at some Mark III Cavalier trim levels. So there was a base 1.4 or 1.6 before the facelift. See, there was the L like this, GL, GLS, the CD, and tons of others. The Concept, the Cesaro, the Expression, the Envoy was one of the base models, the SRI, the Colorado, the LS, the Ethos that was available with the E-Drive engine, and then some others that were only available with the saloon body style, such as the Turbo 4x4 and the GSI 2000. The E-Drive apparently got 60 miles per gallon or more, which is pretty crazy. So, viewers, should you consider a Vauxhall Cavalier Mark III, or indeed an Opel Vectra A for your hard-earned budget up to £1,000? Well, if you can find one that's not rusty, it hasn't got, like, you know, a broken cam belt and a blown head gasket, then I don't see why not. These cars were known for being really, really tough back in the day, being very durable. And a lot of people kind of said that the Vectra B that followed these was not as good, and certainly the four-cylinder models, the Vectra B, I don't like as much as these Mark III Cavaliers. The V6 Vectra Bs are fantastic, and the V6s and these are good too. I prefer a higher trim level, and I'm always saying that, aren't I? But this incredible car in this sort of condition that you can come and drive here at the Great British Car Journey is something I would thoroughly recommend you do if you can. Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video and comment below, and we shall see you again very soon for more inexpensive motoring.